Discover the incredible truth. Is Earth a hidden conscious being? Life-changing journey revealed. The heavy autumn sun hung low over Crestview, casting golden light on the small farming town where heartache and hope danced side by side. Clara, a devoted single mother in her late 30s, wiped sweat from her brow as she plated up pancakes at the local diner. Her son, Billy, with his sparkling blue eyes, dreamt of a grand world filled with adventure. Unbeknownst to him, his mother worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on in their modest home. A constant ache settled in her chest as the community struggled to stave off corporate greed, threatening their very way of life to the corner of the diner. Clara overheard whispers from the old-timers, their voices hushed yet animated. The rivers, stagnant. Wildlife, disappearing. The earth, she feels our neglect. Clara's heart raced as she imagined the land as alive, echoing her own pain with her estranged father, a Vietnam War veteran, who returned home only to feel lost. Would the stories of sentient Earth help bridge the gap between her shattered relationship with him? Every evening after her shifts, while Billy chased fireflies outside, Clara buried herself in folklore, captivated and desperate to heal. She envisioned herself standing tall, a vessel for change. These tales ignited a fire within her, compelling her to share them with the townspeople. They needed to see the connection between the pain in their hearts and the land beneath their feet. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days passed, filled with hushed conversations echoing Clara's revelations. But to her surprise, her intentions angered some. They needed to work hard, chase success, cling to their beliefs, not risk everything for the earth. Clara felt the walls closing in. Then news broke. A corporation had plans to devour their farms, paying families a pittance for lifetimes of labor and love. With resolve, Clara stood up, her heart pounding fiercely. She confronted the threat head-on, facing her father in the crowd, begging them all to see. "We feed the earth, and she feeds us," she cried, her voice trembling. Emotions swirled around her like leaves in the brisk October wind. Her father looked down, shadows of his own wars shifting in his eyes. The tension hung heavy, as eyes flicked from Clara to the land they farmed, to the dreams they dared not voice. Would they heed her call? Would they find the courage to embrace the truth? The air crackled, charged with unspoken fears and unacknowledged connections, leaving Clara standing at the precipice of possibility, her heart racing and the world hanging at an uncertain edge. What would happen next? Clara's resolve trembled, pulling the strings of hope and fear taut as a bow ready to snap. The answer lay amidst the turmoil. Would her community awaken to their bond with the earth? Or would they, including her own father, remain lost to the forces they sought to defy? The chill of autumn seeped deeper into the bones of Crestview. Clara stood before the diner's worn wooden counter, her heart still pounding from the speech she had delivered. A knot of uncertainty twisted in her stomach. She couldn't shake the memory of her father's downcast eyes, the weight of his unspoken words pooling between them like stagnant water. Days turned into a blur of worry as Clara balanced her work and looked after Billy, who was unfazed by the swirling storm surrounding their town. He still chased fireflies each night, blissfully unaware of the fight looming ahead. Yet Clara couldn't afford his innocence. Every moment of joy had become a fragile thread tethered to an unseen chaos as the sun dipped below the horizon. Clara gathered her thoughts under the fading light. She scribbled notes, pulled together ideas. There was something greater here, something she needed to share, a way to awaken the spirit of the town's inhabitants. The earth spoke through its rivers and trees. It was time they listened. Determined, she organized a town meeting at the community hall. The air buzzed with tension as townsfolk filtered in, their brows furrowed with concern about the changes coming to their beloved farms. Clara could almost feel their skepticism hovering like a cloud. As she stood on the small makeshift stage, Clara could see farm-worn faces, craggy and weathered. Farmers who had toiled on the same land for generations now looked worried and uncertain. She swallowed hard. This was the moment she had prepared for. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice shaking slightly. "I know our hearts are heavy with worry. We hear whispers of progress, of a big company promising growth and profit." She paused, letting her words hang in the air. "But what kind of progress is it if it means losing our roots, tearing down our heritage? The earth is alive. She feels our anger, our despair. We are in a relationship with her, and it's time we start treating that bond with respect and gratitude." Some faces softened, others scowled. A distant voice broke through the crowd. "This is nonsense. Clara, you want us to fight progress with fairy tales?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. She took a breath, steadied herself. "This isn't just about fairy tales. It's about our homes, our families, and the land that has given us so much. We can't ignore the signs, the dying rivers, the disappearing wildlife. I believe we can turn it around if we unite." Billy, perched in the back, looked at her with wide eyes as if he sensed the shifting energy. The meeting erupted into heated debate as old grievances surfaced, bitter divisions. Years of mistrust. Clara felt her resolve begin to falter. But then Billy shouted from the back, "Mom, remember the stories? The earth wants us to fight back." Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. Clara locked eyes with her son, his bright spirit igniting something deep within her. If he could believe in the stories, then maybe they had a chance too. The conflicting emotions changed, replaced by genuine curiosity from some faces. "What do you suggest we do?" an older farmer finally asked, his voice softer now. Clara's heart raced, a flicker of hope igniting as she suddenly saw a way forward. "We band together. We resist. We can create a community garden. Start small. Let us show big companies who we really are, what we stand for. If we unite, we can safeguard our legacy." People mulled over her idea. Future promises hung in the air, the battle ahead before them clearer than ever. What had started as a desperate plea for cohesion now glimmered with fresh resolve. As whispers of support grew, Clara felt the stirrings of something powerful begin, a movement that could change everything. But as this new idea took root, a shadow loomed larger than ever. The corporation was watching, and they wouldn't retreat easily. Clara's heart sunk with the realization that the next stage of the battle was just beginning. How far would she have to go to save the land she loved? She looked over at Billy, his face a canvas of hope, and whispered, "We can't give up." In that moment, they were both aware the real fight lay ahead, and it would take more than stories to protect their home. What lengths would they go to in order to preserve the land, and could the strength of community truly battle corporate greed? Clara woke to the soft light of dawn streaming through the kitchen window. She had fallen asleep at the table, exhaustion weighing heavily on her limbs. The coffee pot gurgled cheerfully as she poured herself a cup, hoping that today would spark the change she had envisioned in the meeting. Billy was already at the small table, fingers sticky with remnants of the blueberry jam he'd smothered on toast. He looked up at her, his bright blue eyes wide with excitement. "Are we going to start the garden today, Mom?" he asked, bouncing in his seat. Clara's heart twitched at his eagerness. "We will, honey. But first we need to gather everyone's help. It's a big job, and we can't do it alone." As they worked together to prepare, Clara thought about everything that lay ahead. She remembered the sleepy looks from her neighbors and the way their brows unfurrowed just a little when she spoke about the garden. It was a small step, but it could grow into something bigger. Today felt like the dawn of their resistance, a spark ready to ignite. The chill in the air was sharper than before, nipping at her cheeks as they headed outside. Billy ran ahead, his laughter slicing through the quiet of the morning. Clara followed, the ground beneath their feet still damp from the night. As they neared the community center, Clara saw a few familiar faces. Old Mr. Hawkins was digging through his truck for tools while Mrs. Caldwell was unloading bags of soil. Clara's heart swelled. This was their first show of solidarity. She waved, and they greeted her back with warm smiles. "Good morning, everyone. Are we ready to get our hands dirty?" Clara's voice rang out, and the group gathered around her. She laid out their vision, every finger and toe of land they could nurture together to push back against looming threats. That morning, laughter mingled with determination as hands worked to break the soil, planting seeds of hope into the earth. Clara felt a wave of energy flowing through the group, each person pouring their stories into the ground, planting not just vegetables, but a future. Yet, in the distance, a shadow of doubt lingered. Clara spotted a van parked at the edge of the lot, marked with the corporate logo that loomed over them all. The sight made her stomach knot, but she swallowed hard. They were not alone today. "Let us take a break, everyone," Clara called out, trying to distract herself from the looming presence. She gathered them under the shade of the old oak tree, the leaves rustling gently above them. "We need a plan. This garden is just the beginning. We need to show our neighbors and the world that we care about this land." It wasn't just about growing food. It was about growing a community, a voice, a movement. Clara could see the fire igniting in their eyes. She met Billy's gaze. His wide smile reminded her why they fought. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Clara began to feel that unshakable weight resurface. What if they were being watched? "We have to be ready," she said. "They won't back down easily." A hush descended over the group, the laughter giving way to concern. Just then, one of the younger farmers, Sam, spoke up. "What if we organize a rally in town? Let them see we're not going to sit back and let them take what's ours." "Yes," Clara shouted, suddenly electrified by the idea. "If we pack that town square, they will realize we won." To be silenced. The spirit reignited among them, but another urgent thought crept in. They were entering dangerous territory. When they turned back to the van, it was gone, but somehow, Clara felt the weight of its presence lingering like a cobweb on the back of her neck. As they resumed work on the garden, Clara noticed how those first shoots were starting to peek through. Hope was blooming, yet the impending threat lurked just outside their collective vision. Later that evening at home, Billy crawled into her lap, his small arms wrapped around her neck. "Are we going to win, Mom?" he asked softly, his innocence a mantle she cherished. Clara inhaled deeply, wrapping her arms around him tightly. "We will fight with everything we have, Billy. Together." But as she whispered assurances, a sinking feeling settled in her gut. What would they have to endure to protect their land? And just how far would the corporation go to silence them? The battle for Crestview had begun, and Clara knew they were on the brink of something monumental, something that could change everything. Would they be able to withstand the storm that was approaching? The next morning broke with a fierce wind, carrying a chill that pricked at Clara's skin. Still, she pulled herself out of bed, coffee brewing in the background as she gazed out at the garden in its nascent glory. The fresh shoots were fighting their way through the soil, defiant against the gusts sweeping across the empty lots surrounding their tiny community center. Billy, still in his pajamas, stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, are we going back to the garden today?" he asked, his voice thick with remnants of dreams. "Yes, sweetie, but we have a lot to prepare first. We need as many people as possible for the rally," Clara replied, her heart racing with excitement and anxiety. After breakfast, they gathered supplies. Posters covered in colorful, hopeful phrases were scattered across the table. With Billy's small hands helping, they traced bold letters together. "Save our land," and "We are stronger together." Clara watched her son carefully, admiration swelling in her chest as he methodically added drawings of sunshines and flowers around the words. Once the signs were ready, Clara led Billy to the garden. The earth felt alive under their feet, rich with possibility. As they reached the center where they had worked just the day before, a group was already forming. Neighbors and friends arrived, bringing tools and worn-out gloves. Clara could see determination etched in their faces, a shared resolve in their movements. "Okay, everyone," Clara called with a confidence she hadn't quite felt before. "Let us get the word out. We need to pack the square tomorrow. Our voices deserve to be heard." The group cheered, the enthusiasm like electricity crackling in the air. She handed out the posters, and soon scribbled messages filled the early morning light, creating a tapestry of hope. The garden was alive again, but this time it was more than just plants sprouting from the earth. It was a community burgeoning with passion. As they worked, Clara felt the looming presence of that corporate van again. Each time she thought about it, her stomach twisted with both fear and anger. She turned to the crowd, half expecting to see the vehicle lurking just out of view. One of the older women, Mrs. Caldwell, caught Clara's glance. "What's on your mind, dear? You look troubled." It's just Clara hesitated, trying to collect her thoughts. "I can't shake this feeling that someone's watching us. They won't stand for what we're doing here." Mrs. Caldwell nodded slowly, her expression grave. "We need to be vigilant. They've taken too much from us already." As they concluded their day of labor, the horizon began to glow gold. Clara felt hopeful, yet the weight of uncertainty pressed heavier than ever. The stakes were rising, and she realized that they were on the cusp of something bigger than herself, bigger than Billy, bigger than all of Crestview. When the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the garden, Clara took one last look at their work. A wave of emotion swept through her. This was only the beginning. As they headed home, Billy reached out and grabbed her hand. "Mom, do you think anyone will show up tomorrow?" Clara squeezed his hand tight, fighting back the uncertainty. "I believe they will, Billy, and together we can make a difference." That night, Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the rally looming in her thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being approached by more than just the corporation. What if they encountered resistance from their own neighbors as well? Would fear win out over hope? The air felt thick with tension, and she knew that tomorrow would reveal more than just the state of their community. It would define what they were really fighting for. The day of the rally dawned, brighter than expected, the sun pouring golden light over Crestview. Clara stood in front of the mirror, nervously running her fingers through her hair. She wore jeans and a bright green shirt with the words, "Our future matters," emblazoned across the front. Billy burst into the room, dressed in his best outfit, a bright blue t-shirt that read Action Hero. "Mom, you look awesome," he exclaimed, bouncing on the balls of his feet. His enthusiasm was contagious, igniting a warmth in Clara's chest that pushed back against her worries. "Thanks, buddy. We're going to need all the energy we can get today," she replied, her heart beating fast. As they made their way to the square, Clara noticed the streets alive with activity. Neighbors were already gathering, some clutching their homemade signs, others chatting in small groups. Clara felt the ripple of excitement coursing through the air, intertwining with the anxious knot in her stomach. Billy ran ahead, catching up with a friend from school, while Clara moved closer to the crowd. Arthur, the town's grizzled old fisherman, stood up on an improvised platform, yelling out to the crowd, "Let us rally together. Today's the day we show those suits that we won back down." The crowd cheered, rallying around the sentiment. But in the back of her mind lingered the thought of that corporate van. Clara scanned the streets, half expecting the men in suits to descend upon them, disrupting the harmony unfolding before her. She pushed the thought aside. Today was about unity and standing firm. Taking a breath, Clara stepped forward, her voice mingling with the others. "We've come together not just for our garden but for each other. Each plant nurtured here represents a child's future, a neighbor's dream, a community's hope." Her words struck chords in the hearts of those gathered. She watched as Billy raised his sign high above his head, his face shining with pride. Smiles spread across the crowd. But as they cheered, Clara caught sight of something that froze her to the spot. A figure clambering out of the sleek black van parked just beyond the square. It was Mr. Jenkins, the infamous developer, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses, his demeanor cold and calculating. He moved toward the group, adjusting his tie as if he were about to deliver a corporate presentation rather than face the heart of the community. Clara's heart raced. This wasn't just a protest. It was about to become a scene. "Stay calm, everyone," she urged, trying to keep her voice steady. Her breath caught as Mr. Jenkins approached, flanked by 2 security guards. The joy of the crowd shifted to an uneasy murmur, tension bubbling beneath the surface. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Jenkins called out, "I see you've gathered here today to make a nuisance of yourselves. This land you're fighting for, it's not yours, and I'd like to remind you that development is coming. You'd best step aside." The reaction was instantaneous. Shock rippled through the group, followed by angry whispers and concerned exchanges. Clara felt the weight of eyes on her, urging her for a response. The stakes had officially risen. The fight laid stark before them. "Enough!" Clara shouted, her voice breaking through the murmurs, raw with emotion. "We're not stepping aside, Mr. Jenkins. Not now, not ever." The crowd shifted, rallying behind her, voices rising in defiance. But she knew they needed more than just words. They needed unity and a clear plan. As Clara's heart thundered in her chest, she realized they were standing at the precipice of change. What would happen next? Would they follow through, or would fear win this round? As the air teetered on the edge of confrontation, Clara's thoughts raced. Today was just the beginning, but could their passion redefine what was possible? Billy's eyes widened as Clara shouted back at Mr. Jenkins. He looked around, eyebrows furrowed, unsure of how to feel. The crowd, once buzzing with excitement, now felt heavy with uncertainty. Clara quickly knelt beside him, her voice low. "Buddy, remember what we talked about? We're here for something important. Stay close to me." He nodded, gripping his sign tightly, trying to mirror her courage.mr. Jenkins didn't flinch. He merely adjusted his glasses and continued. "What you're fighting for is futile. The town needs progress, and I'm here to tell you that this is out of your hands. We're coming whether you like it or not." A tense silence fell over the crowd as people exchanged worried glances. Clara could almost feel the doubt creeping back in, tugging at the hearts of her neighbors like a weed pulling strength from the roots of their unity. "Do you hear him?" Clara called, standing taller. "Yes, trying to plant fear right in our soil. But we are the garden, and we flourish together. We won't let fear dictate our future." There was a spark, a flicker of flame in the faces around her as people leaned in, reconnecting with that shared dream. Arthur stepped up again, his voice booming. "We've been here long before Mr. Jenkins decided to swoop in with his money. It's time to show him what this community is made of." Cheers erupted, and the energy surged through the square like a hurricane wind. Clara felt it too. The tightness in her chest eased as the crowd roared their support, feeling unstoppable together. But then Clara noticed something shift in Mr. Jenkins' stance. The confident smirk faltered just a bit. "It doesn't have to be this way. You can negotiate with us. We can work something out," he proposed, a new tone creeping into his voice. "Negotiate?" Another voice shouted. It was Carla Hughes, a local butcher known for her fierce loyalty to the community. "You mean sell out? We can't negotiate our future away." "Yes," Clara echoed, not missing a beat. "This isn't just about land or plants. This is about our community, our lives, and our choices." An unexpected wave of agreement rippled through the crowd. Clara felt a tug in her heart, both fear and hope clashing fiercely. They were garnering strength, but was it enough? Could they really change the course of this confrontation? Mr. Jenkins raised a hand, trying for control. "You think you're strong, but you're just a collection of voices. I have resources, plans, power." Clara stepped closer, her pulse racing. "And we have heart. Love for our home. You may have power, but we have each other." As she gazed into the sea of faces, friends, neighbors, her son, she felt their resolve solidifying, weaving together a fabric of unity against the looming threat. But just then, a commotion broke loose from the back of the crowd. Someone was pushing forward, eyes wild with panic. "Clara! Clara!" It was Nancy, her voice shrill and urgent. "You need to see this. They're bringing in heavy equipment right now." Clara's mind went blank as adrenaline coursed through her. This was no longer a simple rally. This was a battle for their home, and time was slipping away. "What are we going to do?" she whispered under her breath, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. Her heart raced, uncertainty flooding her mind. Would this moment propel them into action or break their spirit? Just when she thought she might lose her voice amid the chaos, she steadied herself and felt a spark of resolve. They were on the brink of something colossal, and Clara knew they couldn't back down. She took a deep breath, glancing at Billy, who looked back at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Let us show them what we're made of," she pledged, ready to set a plan into motion. What choice would they make in the face of such an overwhelming threat? The rally wasn't just a plea anymore. It was their ultimate stand. Clara knew they had to act fast, but the stakes were mounting higher than ever before. Would they fight together or risk losing everything? Clara's breath quickened as she took in the scene around her. The crowd was buzzing with anxious energy, the air thick with determination. Billy squeezed her hand, grounding her in the storm of emotions swirling inside her. She glanced at him, and his soft gaze filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. "Listen up," Clara shouted, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "We need to move. We can't just stand here and wait for them to bulldoze our dream. Let us form a line to block the equipment. We need to protect our homes." A ripple of energy pulsed through the crowd as her words ignited a feverish response. People began shouting with agreement, rallying around her. Clara felt a sense of power surge through her veins. She was no longer just scared, she was ready to fight. "Arthur, get the others," she called out to the burly man who had already shown such bravery. "If we don't act now, we won't have a choice left at all." Arthur nodded, rushing to gather a few brave souls. Clara could see the fire in their eyes echoing her own thoughts. This was bigger than fear. It was about hope, unity, and the love they all shared for their community. As she moved closer to the front, Clara's heart raced with every step. The sound of engines roared in the distance, drowning out her thoughts momentarily. She raised her hand toward the line of trees they could lose if the construction went ahead. The sight of their beautiful park was a painful reminder of what was at stake. She could feel the tears welling up, but she pushed them back. "Okay," she shouted, keeping her voice steady. "When the equipment arrives, we'll stand together. No one gets past us. Got it? Got it," echoed the crowd, a wave of determination solidifying their stand against Mr. Jenkins. As the noise of the approaching machinery grew louder, Clara steeled herself. She caught sight of her neighbor, old Mr. Thomas, who had lived in the area for decades. His weathered face shone with resolve, and she felt a rush of strength seeing him stand there, a man who had known loss yet always found a way to fight back. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a huge, yellow bulldozer came into view, lumbering like a giant beast. Clara's heart sank, but she took a deep breath and held her ground. The crowd's tension coiled tightly around them, as if they were a single entity ready to strike. "Here it comes!" someone shouted, fear creeping back into their tone. Clara quickly scanned the faces around her, reminding herself of the families, the kids, and the lives that depended on this moment. Then, without thinking, she stepped boldly in front of the bulldozer, her small form standing defiantly against its immense power. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice steady despite the shaking in her knees. The driver, an unfamiliar face hidden behind thick glass, paused. For a split second, Clara felt the world freeze. That split second expanded into what felt like an eternity. The roar of engines faded, and the crowd held its breath, waiting for the next move. Clara's heart hammered in her chest as she locked eyes with the driver. A sudden wave of fear washed over her. What if he didn't stop? What if they couldn't hold their ground? The realization hit her. This was the point of no return. Behind her, Billy's small form echoed her resolve. It was more than just her. This was their home, their fight, all of their dreams hanging in the balance. Together, she called back to the crowd, heart racing. We're all in this. Would they stand defiant and protect their homes? Or would they fall apart before the advancing machinery? Clara felt an overwhelming urge to push forward, to fight for every heartbeat that resonated with hers. The stakes couldn't be higher, and in that moment, with the weight of the world on her shoulders, Clara realized they were all braver together. But what would happen when the driver made his choice? Would this stand mark the beginning of their fight, or would it be the very end? The driver's eyes flickered under the glare of the sun, and for a moment, Clara thought she saw uncertainty there. She felt the crowd behind her shift, the tension palpable. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears. "Come on," she urged softly, though her heart screamed. What if he saw them not as a barrier but as a nuisance? What if he didn't take care about the homes behind her? At that moment, the engine roared to life again. Her stomach dropped as the bulldozer lurched forward slightly. She took a step back instinctively, but something within her pushed her forward once more. She wanted to be shoved back. "Not now. Stop," she yelled again, her voice rising above the din. "You can't just come in here like you own the place. These are our homes." The crowd behind her erupted into a chorus of shouts, voices rising to drown out the noise of the machine. Clara was amazed at their bravery. She saw youth and age all standing together, each pouring everything they had into this moment. Mr. Thomas stepped up beside her. "You're right, Clara," he shouted, his voice booming even as age warped it. "For decades we've fought together. Today is no different." That seemed to resonate with the crowd. They had been through storms before losses, small victories. They were neighbors first, before anything else. Clara felt a swell of gratitude for him and everyone else standing beside her. Suddenly, the driver turned off the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. Clara's chest tightened. Did that mean they were getting through? Or was this just a moment of pause? "Listen, everyone," a voice cried from behind them. It was Arthur, breathless as he squished through the crowd. "I spoke with some folks up the road. They're mobilizing too. We're not alone in this fight." Clara's heart leaped at that. It felt like a ray of sunlight breaking through an overcast sky. She glanced at Billy, who had brightened at this news, his small fists clenching with pride. "Yeah," she shouted, riding the wave of newfound spirit. "We don't just represent ourselves. This is bigger than us. If we band together, they can't ignore us." The anger in the crowd transformed into a fierce determination. The murmurs built back into a roar, and Clara stood taller, emboldened. "Do we want to save our homes?" Clara yelled. "Yes," came the unified response. "Do we want to keep our park?" She continued. "Yes." "Then let us show them they can't erase us." Cheers erupted around her, a wave of unity, powering them all forward. They moved closer together, shoulder to shoulder, a solid wall of humanity. Clara felt their energy coursing through her, tethering them together as one. Clara turned her gaze back to the driver, her heart thumping loudly. She saw him studying them, his expression unreadable. She wondered what he was thinking. Could he feel their determination? Did he see them as more than just a mere inconvenience? Then, unexpectedly, he raised his hand. Was he about to wave at them in mockery? But then he pulled down the window, leaning out. Clara held her breath, the crowd stilling around her. "All right," the driver said, his voice gruff yet steady. "You want to fight for this place? Let us talk." Clara's heart surged hope but also fear. What could this conversation lead to? Was it a chance to make a difference? Or was it just a distraction from the inevitable? As they stood together, the weight of uncertainty settled among them like a heavy fog. This was just the beginning, and Clara could feel it deep in her bones. Together, Clara shouted once more, taking her stand for every hopeful moment that lay ahead. But would the words spoken now manifest change? Or would they stumble before the challenges lurking just beyond this moment? Clara held her breath as the driver leaned closer, and for a fleeting moment, the noise of the crowd faded into a background hum. His eyes, once steely and unyielding, glimmered with something different. Empathy. Maybe? Or was it just a flicker of frustration? "Let us talk," he repeated, his voice a low rumble that resonated through the crowd. Clara scanned the faces of her neighbors, some filled with hope, others clouded with skepticism. The tension was sickening, almost palpable. "Why should we trust you?" a fierce voice piped up from the back. It was Mrs. Jenkins, her eyebrows knitted together. "Words mean nothing if they don't come with actions." The driver nodded, as if he expected the challenge. "Fair point. But I'm not the one who made your homes disappear. His gaze shifted from Clara to the street lined with houses, a place of laughter, of life. But I might have some power to help you keep them. Clara felt the shift in the air, like the calm before a storm. The questions piled up in her mind. What power did he really have? Was it possible that he could actually help? In a moment, the crowd shifted from anger to curiosity, and Clara sensed an opportunity forming. Look, she shouted, trying to keep the momentum alive. If he is willing to listen, we owe it to ourselves to speak up. We're not just fighting for bricks and walls, we're fighting for our lives, our families, our futures. The murmurs grew louder, people nodding along, warmed by Clara's passion. Okay, I hear you, the driver said, his brow furrowing. I know I can't erase the frustration and the hurt you all feel. I see it every day in this job. He paused, looking back at the bulldozer for a moment. But I also know the company's got plans, some of which might not be set in stone. And right now, as it stands, I'm your best shot at change. Clara's heart raced. This was an opening. What's the plan? A voice called out, a glimmer of hope lacing every syllable. First, we need to sit down together and talk details. You gather your leaders, those who want to fight, and I'll meet you somewhere neutral. We can start with a dialogue about what possibilities exist. A restless energy coursed through the crowd as they glanced at one another. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. But Clara saw the flicker of possibility ignite in their eyes. Just one meeting? Mr. Thomas asked as he furrowed his brow. We need more than just promises. Agreed. The driver's voice matched the weight of Mr. Thomas's words. But sometimes that's where you start. One meeting can be a stepping stone, and I'm willing to help facilitate more if there's enough interest. Is that all you want? Clara challenged, her resolve bubbling up again. Just to have a chat and walk away? No. I want action, he said, frustration edging his tone. But I can't do it alone. I need you to be part of this too. Clara felt a surge of courage wash over her. They had something now, a flicker of hope igniting into a flame. We'll do it. We'll gather everyone, we're going to make our voices heard. As she looked around, faces lit up with determination. There was fear, yes, but also a dawning realization that they had power. As they started to plan their next steps, Clara's heart beat with a new rhythm. Maybe, just maybe, they could carve out their own future. But as doubts nudged at the edges of her mind, a sharper thought sliced through. What if his intentions were as cloudy as the sky above? Would this be their turning point, or just another trap? The driver's eyes met hers for a brief moment, and Clara felt the weight of the conversation hanging in the air between them. Let us make a stand, she urged the crowd, her voice echoing with resolve. But the questions still lingered. Would they truly seize this chance? Or would they crumble under the weight of uncertainty? And as Clara's heart began to race, they all braced for the answer to unravel in the conversations to come. The air crackled with uncertainty, but in that moment, Clara felt a spark ignite within her, urging her onward. We're not just here to negotiate. We're here to fight for our home, she declared, raising her voice and locking eyes with Billy, who stood firm beside her. His wide grin reminded her why they were pushing against the tide. With a newfound determination, Clara turned back to the crowd. Let us make a plan. We gather everyone who cares about our future. This isn't just my fight. It's our fight. The crowd shifted, a ripple of energy coursing through them, and she saw nods of agreement and glimmers of hope in the faces of her neighbors. Amar Jenkins scrutinized them, the tension cracking like dry twigs underfoot. All right, he said reluctantly. Propose a time and place, but remember this whole thing is under the scrutiny of the board. I can only push so hard. Clara felt the tightness in her chest ease just a little, the threads of possibility woven tighter among them. We'll hold you to that, she shouted, her voice now steady with purpose. And in that instant, the fears of yesterday flickered back, not to haunt her, but to keep her grounded. As the crowd dispersed, Clara, fueled by adrenaline, gathered key players to form a united front. Billy towed close behind, excitement twinkling in his ocean blue eyes. They spent the afternoon rallying support, painting signs, and calling everyone who would listen. Soon, a meeting was set for the following week, a date with destiny looming just out of reach. But the anticipation was palpable. The days flew by filled with preparations, and each moment built up the tension. On the night before the gathering, Clara found herself awake, heart racing. She sat at the kitchen table, the glow of the moon piercing through the window, illuminating the worn wood beneath her hands. What if it doesn't work? She whispered into the silence, fear creeping back in. Billy tiptoed into the living room, sensing her distress. Mom, do you think they'll listen? Clara pulled him into her lap, the warmth of his small body a balm to her racing thoughts. I hope so, buddy, but we have to be strong. No matter what happens, we're in this together. As dawn broke, the town square came alive with a buzz of activity. Clara stood at the edge of the crowd gathered at the community hall. Neighbors lined up, clutching homemade signs and whispering nervously. Clara took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of crisp autumn air mixed with the hope of the crowd. The tone in the air had shifted. Uncertainty had morphed into readiness. Inside, the table was set, and Clara exchanged nervous glances with those who stood beside her friends, family, and supporters locked in for the fight of their lives. The moment stretched, hearts racing against the weight of expectation. They filled the seats, unity reflected in their eyes, each one stepping forward for the community they loved. When Mr. Jenkins entered, the room hush fell heavy. Clara stood at the forefront, her thousand unspoken worries muted by the exclamation of purpose. She felt her heart drum hard, but she held her ground as he approached, flanked by colleagues who radiated corporate authority. Thank you for coming, he said, holding up a hand to quell the murmurs. I believe we can find a middle ground. Clara didn't miss a beat. We won't back down from what is right for our community, Mr. Jenkins. We want assurances, not just a promise in the air. Mr. Jenkins' brow creased, but behind hardened eyes glimmered a hint of respect as he nodded. Fine. Let us draft a plan for community partnerships, something beneficial for both sides. As discussions unfolded, Clara participated with fervor, her heart quickening as the words flowed. We need to secure land for the community garden, support for sustainable practices, not just temporary fixes. Back and forth they went, the energy pulsating through the room as she ignited conversations that left room for growth, nurture, and possibility. Hours passed, and finally, a commitment emerged. This wasn't the surrender Clara feared. This was the bridge she fought to create. The roar of agreement that erupted felt like a cleansing wave spreading among them, every heart resonating together. When they finally walked out into the cool evening air, Clara basked in the relief and hope that wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Billy bounced with excitement, scattering towards the sun as it dipped beneath the horizon, filling the sky with vibrant colors. Mom, we did it! He exclaimed, his joy a refreshing contrast to the palpable uncertainty that had loomed large over their fight. Clara knelt beside him, pulling him tight. No, sweetheart, we are doing this. Together we can keep this community alive. As they made their way home, Clara's heart brimming with gratitude, she turned and looked back at the community hall, the weight of the past weeks lifting. They weren't perfect, but they had fought for their beliefs, rallied as one, and secured a chance for the future. And with the echoes of laughter trailing behind them and the sun now setting on Crestview, Clara knew they had one more than just a meeting. They had planted seeds that would flourish through every obstacle, nurturing not just land, but the spirit that held them all together. For Clara, for Billy, for every soul that called Crestview home. The battle may still loom, but now hope radiated through the soil and their hearts. As they walked hand in hand, Clara felt an unwavering truth in her bones. This was their home, and no one could take that away. Now, it's your turn to make a difference. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support us. You don't want to miss what comes next. Don't wait not even one more second to share.